Hello everyone, this is Joseph K and I am back with another video that is a little bit different than what I normally tend to throw on my channel. Following up with what I did with the review for Music to Be Murdered by Eminem, I am now finally doing a different video of that ilk. These are stressful times right now. I don't think my video is going to put anybody in better spirits, but let's talk about something. But before we get to it, I like to say I hope all of you guys are doing well during this crisis. I am not taking it as seriously as I probably should, but I don't really care too much. So, I hope you guys are doing well, and let's get right to the next video. And by the way, we are going to be discussing you, not you, as in the actual novel. And before we get into this, I would like to say that there's going to be a brief couple second pause because we are going to be hitting spoiler territory, and I don't want anybody to get spoiled and get mad at me because I spoiled it, because we are going to be comparing the book and the TV series, Season 1 of You, which is on Netflix right now as we speak. So, without further ado, you've been warned. All right, so here we are. So, as I showed you, the book You. I just finished this book last night, and I spent pretty much the moment I got off work till I went to sleep at like 1 o'clock, I think, reading that book. This book is the first book I've devoured. And I say devoured because usually it takes me nowadays a long time to read a book. I'm just not interested. I don't make time to read books, even short books, sort of like the Gwendy's Magic Feather, which is a sequel to Stephen King and Richard Chizmar's Gwendy's Button Box. So I usually don't make time to sit down and read a book of substantial length. Now I say substantial as over 400 pages. This book I just showed you is like 424, give or take. But, oh my god, I need to discuss it. So, I came across the series. This is story time, ladies and gentlemen. I came across the series on Netflix, but I didn't watch it when I first saw it because I'm gonna be honest, I was trying to look for more steamy videos. There was something I'd seen that I was interested in, so I was trying to check it out. And as I was going through, it was around the time when they were advertising You. It was after season 2 got released to the Netflix streaming series, which I will be discussing Hidden Bodies when I read that book, and also doing a comparison to the TV series. But the only reason I watched it, funnily enough, was because people at work told me I'm not allowed to watch it. The running going joke at work is that I'm a psychopath. Not true. I'm slightly crazy, but I wouldn't call me a psychopath. If you know what's good for you. No. I play. But no. With the running joke at work, it's all fun and games. No one really believes I'm a psychopath. At least I hope they don't. But anyways, the running gag is I'm a psychopath. I'm a stalker. I do all sorts of things like that. And for the record, I've never stalked anyone. Sammy, who said you could be in this video? But anyways. So, I was at work doing my thing, right? They were discussing it, and I overheard them, and I'm like, oh, what are you guys talking about? They're like, we're talking about You on Netflix. I'm like, okay. But you're not allowed to watch it. I'm like, I'm not allowed to watch it, you say. I do know it's on Netflix. I did see it was there, and I tried to watch it because I heard so many people talking about it, but I honestly didn't get further than like the first 5 seconds the first time I picked it up. It's like I said, I was looking for other things on Netflix. I didn't want to be bothered to sit down and watch a series. Big mistake. So they said, you're not allowed to watch it. I'm like, oh, I'm not, am I? Okay. So guess what? Just for that, I'm going to go home and watch it right as soon as we get off work. They're like, no, Joseph, you can't watch it. I'm like, bet. I'm going to do it. And thus I went home. I turned on you. Now I would like show it off, but I only have Netflix on my PS4, and you cannot have a capture card and your PS4 running at the exact same time because of some HDCP thing that prevents you from pirating movies, pirating TV shows. And I would do it a little bit similar to like how I did how I did not Stephen King, but how I did Eminem's new album. I would play a little bit here and there, but let's talk about you. So you follows a bookstore manager. You might as well call him the owner because the actual owner of the bookshop is nowhere to be found until like the second to last episode in the series, and nowhere to and he just exists in the background. She just exists in the background elsewhere in the actual timeline of the story. Follows a guy named Joe Goldberg, a romantic of sorts, and TV series and book had Joe Goldberg seeing a. Sorry about that. The TV series and the books had a guy named Joe Goldberg who basically fell in love at first sight with this character named Guinevere Beck. Guinevere Beck was he saw her and he instantly had to make her his. He planned down that he was going to meet her, he was going to love her, they were going to be in a relationship, and then he went so far as to say we were going to get married together, we were going to have these kids, you're going to see how much I care for you, you're going to see how much I love you, and everything's going to be fine. Well, this leads Joe to stalk her, like quite literally stalk her. He follows her to her home. He follows her when she's out with her friends. He follows her when she does pretty much anything when he has some free time. Now, Beck is what she goes by in the book and the series. Because Guinevere is long and complicated, I believe is what the quote is. And, he gets upset because it seemed like she was flirting with him and they were flirting with each other, they had a connection, and then she doesn't say anything because he finds all of her social media, he finds everywhere she is at that he could be at her, and yeah, it was insane. So when he follows her to her house and he's watching her at her house, she had what he called nude windows, which is no curtains in your windows, and Beck was doing things. He could see her when she was having sex. He could see her when she was masturbating. He could see her when she was just typing out. Because Beck wanted to be a writer. And he just watched her. And she didn't pay him no mind. He made himself inconspicuous in her neighborhood. So, he sees one of her boyfriends. And he starts to, look into the boyfriend. And he realizes her boyfriend doesn't care for him. Care for her as much as he will. He even goes as far as to say Benji, that's her boyfriend, doesn't know how to treat you back. I am the only one that knows how to treat you. And pretty soon you'll be over, Benji, and I will be the one who's loving you, and you will see that I know how to treat you. And that's how that goes. So he starts seeing and doing his research on Benji, and then he decides, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to kill Benji. But he couldn't bring himself to do it because Joe is not a killer. Yeah, Joe is not a killer. He can't bring himself to kill someone. But he starts to talk to Benji. He starts to tell Benji, you don't know what you're doing with Beck. Benji then tells Joe that, hey, look, she's not all you think she is, man. If you want her, you can have her. She's nothing to me. That, of course, pisses off Joe. Because according to Joe, Beck is his everything, his world, his reason for getting up, his reason for existing. Because he wants to be with Beck. By the way, small tangent here. Fantastic performance from Penn Badgley and Elizabeth Lale in the TV series on Netflix. I don't remember the guy who plays Benji, but fantastic performance for him too. And I will say Joe was Penn Badgley was amazing as Joe. No one could play Joe like Penn Badgley does. I don't think. Like even me, I don't really I can't get into that mindset that I'm a stalker. I'm gonna do anything for this girl I love and there's nothing that's gonna stop me. I can't do it. It's just not me. I can't bring myself to stalk anybody because honestly, that's kind of creepy. But I digress. Anyways, back to the series. So eventually what ends up happening is Joe ends up leading Benji to his basement at the bookstore, which has like a some sort of like cage you would call a different material cage from the series to the book. I believe the book had it more cage like, whereas in the series it was like a glass partition with holes in it and rare books on the inside. Because according to Mr. Mooney, you got to have the book. You got to take caution of these old books. You have to have the correct temperature, or else you're going to cause them to fade. So yeah, lures him down there because Benji he sells club soda. He has this entrepreneurial dream, but he's also a playboy. No, he's out doing drugs. He's out with different women. He's cheating on Beck, who clearly really loves him. So, in Joe's mindset, he's like, okay, Benji doesn't know how to treat you. You're falling for this dude, and he doesn't feel about you the way that you feel about him, and he doesn't feel about you the way I feel about you. So, in Joe's mind, he's like, I got to eliminate him so you can have a happier life. This is really how this dude thinks. So if you've not seen Netflix's You and you've not read Caroline Kepnes's You, I suggest both. I can't really suggest which one I'd watch first, if I would watch the Netflix series first or read the book first. Ordinarily, I say read the book before you watch a movie or a TV series. But honestly, I don't think it really matters because for the most part, the book and the TV series on Netflix are exactly the same. Like there are a couple differences. There's some things that happen in the book that never happened in the series. There are things that happen in the book that happen differently in the series. There are characters that get pulled into the series that didn't exist in the book. But I recommend it. And even though she already liked and retweeted my thing, I would well, not this tweet, but I do want to give much credit to Caroline Kepnes. She was amazing with this series. Now I digress again. So, anyways, he lures Benji down to his basement to well, he doesn't know what to do. He didn't think that far ahead. He just wanted to get him away from Beck's life. Then he takes his phone and he acts like he's Benji for a time. Continues to tweet about what's going on with him, trying to make Beck fall out of love with Benji because Benji doesn't know how to treat you like I do, and Benji will never love you like I do, and you fall for him. This leads Beck to go talk to her friends, and they all like, dude, leave him alone. And then she's like, okay, maybe it's time for me to start dating. And then she can't get Benji out of her mind. Even after she starts dating Joe, she can't get Benji out of her mind. Now, this is where it differs. In the series, I think Joe was finally with her and she was still thinking about Benji, but I don't think it happened quite like that in the book. I read the book in the span of 2 nights after putting it on hiatus for 3.5 weeks or something like that. 2.5, 3.5 weeks. I started reading when I got to the library and I read like the first 70 pages or 75 pages. And then I didn't touch it. And then I had to wait for it to come back. And then in 2 nights, bam, I knocked out the rest of the book after work. So Benji's out of the picture. Joe starts trying to woo Beck. And she starts to fall for him. But there still remains the issue with Benji, because even after all the stuff Benji's tweeting, Beck still has feelings for him, and Joe is trying to break her of those feelings so that she understands that he is the only guy for her, and that Benji's a waste of space, and that Benji doesn't need to be on her mind because Joe wants to be the first thing she thinks about when she wakes up, the last thing she thinks about when she goes to sleep. He wants her thinking about him as much as he thinks about her. I'm probably going to have some fans of the books and the series who are going to come in here and correct me, which is fine. I'm okay with being corrected because I don't have a good memory for things, so I may paraphrase or misremember. All right. So then, while in the cage, Benji proves himself to be a pathological liar. He can't give Joe straight answers after Joe does research, and he has no reason to believe anything Benji says is true. Because Joe is wrestling with, I'm not a killer, I should let him go, but I need to make sure Beck is over him before I let him go. And it leads to like conversations. He's bringing him food and drink and beverage. He's bringing him food and drink and entertainment while he's in the cage downstairs in the basement, which is locked off by anybody else that works at the shop. And eventually, he finally does do Benji in by bringing a drink. And Benji said he had a peanut allergy. Like, one thing could kill him. So Joe decides to take a gamble. He's like, either he's lying about that or this is going to kill him, and it does me a favor. So, he does his plan. Benji ends up having a peanut allergy, and he put a tablespoon of peanut oil in his coffee. And there you go. Benji's dead. And then he tries to side Benji off. And finally, Beck gets over Benji, and she starts realizing, how good Joe really is for her. But we have another curveball. Beck's best friend. Beck's best friend is, in the book, the epitome of a cockblock. Like the two instances where Joe was finally about to get it on with Beck, Beck's best friend, Peach, always seemed to have something going on that would disturb them right in the moment. Now, it was never confirmed in the TV series or the book with actual evidence outside of a few pictures that may have been clandestine or not taken properly. But it never went out and stated in the book, for that matter, that Peach was following Beck. I believe that Peach kind of was. Like, she knew when, Beck was with Joe. Like, she always tended to know when Beck and Joe were about to do the deed, And she had issues that weren't really real. They weren't hypochondria. It wasn't hypochondriacism. It was just her need to be near Beck. So Beck starts distancing herself from Joe and doing stuff with Peach because Peach has all these issues. Peach Salinger is supposed to be related to J.D. Salinger, an author, and her family like basically abandoned her, and she has no siblings. All she has is Beck, so Beck feels guilty with, all Beck is trying to do is be a good friend to Peach. But Beck doesn't realize in her. See, I relate a lot to Beck because Beck is like, if someone were to write a book and cast a character that's female, it'd be the female version of me, and that would be Beck. Because a lot of Beck's issues, except for her hypersexuality, a lot of Beck's issues I could relate to. I was the type of person that, hey, I'm gonna be there for my friend. I'm gonna do whatever it takes. If my friends call me like, hey, something's up, can you come over? I'm more than likely gonna blow off anything I have going because my friend needs me. So I give Beck plenty of, friend credit because all Beck wanted to do was be a good friend to Peach, but she didn't realize she was being manipulated. Now, let me say, I had friends I didn't realize were manipulating me. And it's a horrible realization. Beck never really came to that full realization until the end, but she was always there for Peach. And Peach's thing is she had an obsession, maybe a little worse than what Joe had for her, because Peach was madly in love with Beck. She wanted to be with Beck in the most carnal way possible. She had intimate pictures of Beck that were clandestine, which is why in the book that is, because she had intimate pictures when she was in the TV series, but they weren't as explicit as the ones in the book. But she had pictures that in the book that there's no way she could have taken unless she was following Beck. The other pictures they showed, like in the movie, it's the series. It was like she could have gotten those pictures because she spent so much time with Beck. She had pictures of her when she's sleeping and things like that. So Joe realizes that, hey, Peach is trying to manipulate her. Peach is trying to take Beck away from him because Peach, like him, is madly in love with Beck. And Beck doesn't realize it. So Joe, he hates Peach, like almost from the get go, because Peach was just this detestable, condescending, patronizing character that I loved a lot because of how bad of a character she was. Now, I don't say she was written bad, no, just how her intentions and how everything about her was just bad. And I admit that in the TV series and the book, I really wanted Peach to get hers. It was just the thing that this series does to you is just weird because you know Joe is the bad guy. You know all the stuff he's doing, yet somehow by the time it ends, you are rooting for him. And it's just I don't understand how that's even possible. But anyways, as you figure, Joe did not like the competition with Peach because Peach was always taking him away from his time with Beck. And Beck could never get really a moment to herself because Peach would always call and Peach would need Beck. So eventually, now this is a different in the series, in the book. So eventually, Peach invites Beck out to her other house. I guess they call it Little Compton. I don't know if Little Compton actually exists in New York, but she invites Peach out to her house for alone time. Because, she's got a stalker and her stalker is scaring her and her stalker, like, Peach thought that there was a stalker trying to go after her, both in the book and the series, because apparently she'd been stalked before. Joe was only in her house once in the book, but he was in her house a few times, unaware to her in the series. He went to her house one time to look for stuff for her, I think, when she wasn't aware of him, and then that was it. And he didn't really touch anything, but she swore up and down something was moving, that she needed Beck to keep her safe because Beck is her knight in shining armor, and it got crazy. So whatever happened, Beck ends up going to Peach's little sideline house, and Joe ends up getting the idea about that because Joe has Beck's phone. See, they met first time when he literally saved Beck's life. He followed her to like a comedy club or a slam poetry club or something like that, and he couldn't stand seeing her up there spilling her heart about Benji and people making fun of her and telling her work wasn't that good. So he left, and he was gonna like leave her, and then she ended up going where he was, and then he ends up saving her because she falls onto the train tracks. And this is the first time they'd actually met face to face. He stole her phone. She got a new phone. He was still logged into her phone, and he was seeing all of her emails. He was seeing all of her posts, everything that she was doing. And he saw during exchanges with her friends that she was missing him. And that got him all giddy. And that she was going to call him because she knew she should. And her friends were like, dude, you need to because he's so good for you. And then she has to go with Peach, and then he finds out where she's at via her emails, and he follows Peach to her location. Now, there is a difference in the book compared to the series here in this scene in particular. In the series on Netflix, he did see this interaction, and then he just Googled the address for Peach's resort and followed them there. But in the book, however, a guy that used to work at his shop, he fired because the guy at his shop gave Beck his address and he didn't clean up all of his Beck memorabilia. And in his mind, his coworker, or his employee, I guess, almost ruined everything he had set up for Beck. So he fires her, and then right as soon as he finds out Beck's missing, she's about to go with Peach to this location. He gets jumped by the former coworker, or employee, and a few of his friends. He then drives in Mr. Mooney's car all the way down to where, Peach and Beck are staying. And that happened. This is the part that happened in the series. A deer runs out. He swerves to avoid the deer, and he smacks into a tree. However, the slight difference is in the book, he actually hit the deer. In the series, he passed out in the car afterwards. In the book, he managed to drag himself to Peach's estate and hide out somewhere else where a cop happened upon him. In the book, the cop isn't super suspicious of him, whereas in the series, the cop ran his license plate and tried to look more into him. So to cut this down, he ends up going to Peach's estate and sneaking into the house when they go for a run, and then he listens to what's going on. He sees Peach try to make a move on Beck. He also leaves evidence behind at the estate of the Salingers. Now, in the book, it didn't really go back to that too much. I mean, he did think about it for a second later on in the book, but in the series, the parents actually questioned the suicide of Peach. In the book, it seems people just basically accepted it for what it was. In the series on Netflix at this time, Beck basically runs back into the arms of Joe. In the book, Beck still doesn't respond to Joe even after she gets back. And that's basically the end of that thing. So now Beck comes back to him. They have a little moment. He doesn't last long, and then Beck starts to distance himself because she's doing therapy. Well, she's sleeping with the therapist in both the book and the series, and Joe doesn't think too much of it because he goes to see the therapist the same time or at the same as Beck, and they talk. The stories that he used for his mouse in the house thing is slightly different. In the book, he was talking about a video he couldn't stop watching and he was obsessive compulsive over it or something like that. In the Netflix series, he made up a gay lover he had, and the gay lover was who Beck was in his mind. That was the story he was spinning for the therapist. So the therapist gave advice for that. So I would say at this point, in the book, Joe is not immediately suspicious of Dr. Nikki, that's the therapist. But in the series, Dr. Nikki is immediate suspicion after the first meeting. Played by John Stamos. Okay, so I've been going on a long-winded thing, but we're almost done, I promise you. Hopefully this doesn't take too long to go up. Anyways, so Joe tries to adapt to life without Beck. He contemplates killing himself because he feels that Beck is not talking to him because he couldn't perform in the bed. And he tries to move on to date another girl because that's what Dr. Nikki told him to do. I think her name was Karen Minty or something like that in the book. She might have been Karen as well in the series, but I don't remember that little bit. To be honest, I wasn't exactly paying attention to that. However, I do know that when I was watching the series on Netflix, I was like, man, he should just forget Beck and move with him. She clearly loves him. Had the same thought for Karen Minty in the book. This woman would have done anything for Joe, but Joe didn't love her because he was still obsessing over Beck. So he finally gets Beck back. I don't know, I remember exactly what happened, but he got Beck to come back to him. They start hanging out. They start dating again. She starts to forget about Dr. Nikki. Now in the series, she saw him with another girl and got jealous. In the book, it didn't quite play that. She never saw him with the girl he was with. And on his last session, just as Beck is getting back with him, the therapist steps out to make a phone call. And Joe goes into his computer and takes files that he has of Beck. He goes back home and he listens to them and he realizes Beck was having an affair with Dr. Nikki. And just as he's going to kill Dr. Nikki in the series, in the book, Beck calls him, says that she needs to see him. She wants to see him. He leaves Dr. Nikki alive. He goes back with Beck. Things get back to normal. And she disappears again to have another affair with him. Now, in the book of the series, one major difference I noticed is Beck in the series got mad because Joe threw like a surprise birthday party or something like that for Beck. And she hated birthday parties. And he listened to the advice from friends on how to, you know, give her what she wants. But she did not want a birthday party in the series. However, in the book, he did throw a party for her. I think it was for her birthday. And she loved it. So that's a major difference. So, now, he's back with Beck. Things are good, right? And she wanted to go home and do something for him in the book. And that was when she found his Beck memorabilia. So he gave her the key to his house, and then for whatever reason, she was. Okay, here's a major difference. The characters in the series that were his neighbors are not in the actual book. Like the Paco and his mom and his aunt and the abusive stepfather. They're not in the series on Netflix at all. In the book at all. They are major characters in the Netflix series, and they are the reason that Joe ends up getting found out. So for whatever reason, I don't know if Beck got suspicious of him or what. She ends up finding his Beck memorabilia in the wall. In the TV series, it was in the ceilings. And she goes through it, and then he gets home when she's going through it, and she's just waiting for him. And that's when she freaks out and decides to leave. Kind of like, but she doesn't make a lie like she does in the series. In the series, she's like, I gotta go get something, I'll be back. But she's just trying to get away from him. So he tries to make it work with her. Doesn't work. He ends up smashing her head in the book and knocking her out. And then he ends up carrying her to his cage in the basement and throwing her in there. Like he did in the TV series. So, what else is going to go on? So, she's not as crazed in the series as she is in the book. In the series, she freaks out, yes, but she doesn't really have too much of a game plan. Like her game plan was, I'm going to stab you with my letter T. Because in the series, Joe gave her a typewriter to finish writing. However, in the book, Joe gave her a book to read, the Da Vinci Code, I believe. And they both read it together, and that brought them closer. And Beck actually really did a good job fooling him in the series. But she did a better job in the book. In the book, it was more prolonged. Seemed like the love was there, and he was about ready to let her out. Like in the book, she's like, I need you now. Like he comes down from doing something upstairs in the bookshop, and she's completely naked waiting for him. And I'm thinking while I'm reading the book, I'm like, well, shit. Okay, this is where she's gonna get him, right? He wants to have sex with her so bad, but that doesn't happen. They end up having sex and falling asleep together while the cage door is unlocked. In the series, they don't have sex at that point, but they do hang out together. And she like brings him in, like, I love you. Okay, I understand what you did. And she stabs him with the letter T, and she makes a beeline. In the series, she makes it up to the top of the stairs, and she tries to get out, and Paco sees her. But that doesn't happen in the book. She doesn't leave when they have sex. She doesn't run up the stairs when he catches her before she's at the top of the stairs, and Paco doesn't exist. So they have sex. Joe's like, okay, now she understands what I'm doing. She learned because Mr. Moody did this to him when he was younger, and he learned. So why shouldn't Beck learn? So he leaves everything unlocked for her except for the front door to the store. He goes, I guess he has a shower in the book. So he goes, he showers in the shop, and he leaves everything unlocked. And as he's drying off, he hears her running. So he chases after her and catches her before she makes it to the door. I guess she's trying to get out the door, and she can't get out the front door. Then he takes her, and then he brings her behind the counter. It's like 4 in the morning. He brings her behind the counter and basically like subdues her. Okay. In the series, it just ended with her escaping out the cage and running to the top of the stairs, Paco ignoring her begging him to let him out or tell the authorities or whatever. Paco just like, nah, I'm gonna head out. SpongeBob means her, right? And he grabs her from behind, and then the screen goes dark. We don't know what he does to her. And it was tragic because we know she's dead because he ends up bringing the body of Beck to the therapist's lawn or house. And that's where that ends. But I'll get to that in a second. So, in the book, it plays out entirely different. Like a lot different. And it's more tragic, too. So, basically, here's what happens with this. He subdues her behind the counter, and he starts choking her. Because he doesn't choke her immediately. I take that back. He takes her behind the counter, and he, like, tries to get her to talk. She says, look, I'm a horrible person. I'm toxic. Everybody's dead because of me. Just let me go, Joe. I promise you, if you let me go, you'll never hear from me. I'm not going to go to the cops. I'm just going to be gone out of your life for good. But Joe's like, no, that doesn't work, you stupid bitch. You can't be out of my life. I need you in my life. What are you talking about leaving? No. What's going to happen is you and I'm going to forgive you. We're going to get over this, and we're going to grow stronger together. We're going to have kids. We're going to have a family. We're going to do all this stuff. And it was her insistence that she was just going to leave him be, and he was trying to shut her up. He was like, look, lady, you don't understand. And he's strangling her as she's trying to say, I just need to go. You won't get in trouble, whatever. And he's like, it doesn't work with him. He ends up strangling her, and she dies. This is the part that got me. I actually thought she was dead. Like, I was really, really upset that she died like that. And then Joe starts replaying all the happy moments they had in life, and he's like, look, this doesn't make any sense. You and I were supposed to be together. We had it all going for us. Why don't you understand what I'm doing? And even now I'm thinking about it's getting me sad. It's just like, everything was great. And he feels bad for killing her. And he's like, Beck, please be alive. Please still be alive. I need to hear your voice. I need to see you. But she faked him out. Like, he was so wrapped up in his reminiscing over this time they had together that she comes back to life, and she ends up, like, hurting him by kicking him in the balls. And I guess she tried to escape that he got, like, adrenaline, whatever, and he actually strangled the life out of her again. And then again, he felt bad. I'm like, oh, fuck. This is horrible. So, in the series, he made her go back to write. She wrote this crazy, fantastical story that was about her and him, and she wrote it about, her having an affair with Dr. Nikki. She wrote fictional characters because in both the book and the TV series, Beck wrote stories and assigned fictional characters to the actual real people she was writing about, different circumstances. So she did the same thing with Joe. I almost called him Uncle Jesse, but no, he's Dr. Nikki in this, and herself. And then she wrote about how the therapist snapped and buried her body after he killed her. In the series, that was supposed to be her way to indemnify. I think that's the word. Indemnify, something like that. It was supposed to be her way. That was supposed to be her tactic she used to tell Joe, hey, look, we could go on our lives now. They think he did it. If I were to die, they'll think he did it. We're free. You and I could go out, but that was her tactic about her getting out. Act like I love him, and then he'll let me go. And then I could tell on him and get the cops out. And then just the way she died in the book, it was just so tragic. Like, goddamn. See, I related a lot to Beck. Like I said, Beck was pretty much me. Ideally, Beck would be like my type of girl. Minus all the, promiscuity. Because I had this bad habit of, like Joe's mantra was in the series, not the book so much, I can fix this. Throughout the whole series, Joe's thing is, I can fix this. He messes up, I can fix this. I can still get away with this. That's not so much the thought process in the book. And I have this bad thing, like, people don't really want to be fixed sometimes, but sometimes I get so far into friendships that I'm like, I can fix you, I can make you better. And in that essence, I'm like Joe, because you can't fix everybody. Unfortunately, it's been the downfall of a couple of my friendships. That's neither here nor there, though. So, that's it. So, in the series, that book gets published. Joe gets it published for her. Forget the story he spun to get it published, but he gets it published for her. And the book figures Dr. Nikki as the main suspect. And that was it. Dr. Nikki was the main suspect. He gets figured as the main suspect. The cops arrest him because the body is found in his yard, actually. In the book, that's not the case. It was still spun that Dr. Nikki was the one that did it. And I think he, compiled her diary entries that Dr. Nikki had to write for her homework. But it wasn't as much of a shoo-in that it was actually the therapist that did it to her in the book. But he ends up taking her body and burying her in the woods in some sort of park when someone's having a wedding. And as he's burying her, he's over here thinking, man, this could have been us, Beck. This should be our wedding. We should be having this park to ourselves right now. We should be celebrating with these people, our people. And he used them as the people getting married in the the forest preserve area thing. He followed them in their relationship, and he likened it to what could have happened with him and Beck if Beck just would have listened to him. Kind of like, those memes that you see around, this could be us, and they have random ass pictures, but you stay playing. Yeah, it was something like that. He was over here this could have been us, Beck. This should have been us. And then he follows this marriage couple around, not physically, but he keeps up with their online life because the Forest Preserve did a piece on them, found their information. He looked at these guys as as a symbol that love isn't dead yet. Love still exists, and I can still get it. And then he gets the guy he hired in place of the guy he fired at the bookstore. He also invites him to a wedding, and he's like, okay, look, love still exists. I may never see it, but it still exists. And then this chick walks in. Now, in the series, it was his dead lover, Candace. However, in the book, it wasn't Candace. Candace is very much dead from what I can see in the book. Like he drowned her in the book. Like he took her to a beach and then he buried her head in the sand and water and killed her that way. In the series, he knocked her out with a rock and ended up bringing her to the forest to bury her. But she wasn't dead. He thought she was, but he buried her anyways in a shallow grave. And then she comes back at the end of the series, season 1 of the series, and is like, "Hey, I'm gonna make you pay what you did to me. Everybody's gonna see just who you are." But nope, Candace doesn't make a turn. It's some other chick that came in earlier in the story. She wanted a job. She used a fake credit card, and he ended up feeling about her like what he felt about Beck. It was after he broke up with the Karen Minty chick. This chick came in, and he got the feelings about her that he got about Beck. Like, man, we're gonna get married, her and I. And then even at the end of the book, he's like, her name is Amy Adam. Funny enough, because Amy Adam was the pseudonym that Candace adopted in season 2 of You. Like I said, there's a spoiler warning, so I don't want no one saying you didn't tell me about spoilers, because the spoilers is going to be actually in the title, in the description, and in this video. I'm going to have a little black screen that says spoiler warning. So yeah, Amy Adam is the name of the chick, and she's clearly using a fake name. We don't learn her real name by the end of the book. And I guess that's how it's supposed to be. So I guess she's supposed to be the object of interest. I don't think she replaces love, because based on reading the description of the book when I was ordering it at the library, based on reading the description of the book, it seems like he falls in love with her and she disappears to California, and he follows her to California and meets this chick or something like that. I don't know. Overall, though, I cannot stress enough how much I enjoyed the series and the book. I am excited to read Hidden Bodies, which is book 2 of the You series. Caroline Kepnes says there's supposed to be 4 books. I don't know if Netflix will have a 4th season, because season 3 of You isn't supposed to come out until next year, which sucks because I really need season 3. They may, I think they're starting to film it, so they may be borrowing from the source a little bit. Because unlike Game of Thrones, I think they should be able to take much from the source. Game of Thrones, however, George R. R. Martin was book 5, and there's 8 seasons, and they didn't have anything to go by, so they just did what they could with creative licensees. But yeah, You was amazing. If you have a Netflix account, I do recommend you watch You, if you haven't already. Oh, I can't really think of anybody who hasn't seen You, but I recommend it. It is, let me tell you, it is freaking suspenseful. It is so suspenseful that there were times when I was watching the series that I actually had to pause it and do something else, because I'm like, oh, fuck. I don't know how this is going to happen. I can't handle all this emotion right now. So, Netflix creators, fantastic job getting me to think that. But this book, I didn't really have to stop oh crap. But man, woo, let me tell you. So, if you have Netflix, do yourself a favor, watch You. If you, excuse me, that's not the corona, by the way. If you have a movie, if you have the book or have access to your library, which my understanding libraries are closed down right now during this time. Yours might still be open, or yours might be open by the time you watch this video. Get the book, or buy the book even. You could probably get your Kindle out and order the book for 99 cents or something like that on Kindle. I don't know. I don't have a Kindle. I don't know how Kindle works. Audible, I don't know how that works either. But I strongly recommend you pick it up and you read it. Let me review now. Since this is a review, let's talk about both the series and the movie. The series and the book. The Netflix series You, for suspense, 10 out of 10. So fucking suspenseful. The acting in the series, 10 out of 10. I love all the actors' performances in You. I'm not doing Hidden Bodies or You season 2 yet. But yeah, fantastic. Binge watching ability. Depends on how you are with suspense. I think you could totally binge watch You and in one day if you have that ability. It took me a few days to binge watch You because I just didn't have time to do it. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Now, for portrayal from transition from book to on screen thing, yeah, definitely going to be a 9 out of 10 for me. I'm the only thing that gets it down is the death of Beck really, really put me in my feelings for a couple days after I watched it. Not so much in the books, I kind of knew it was going to happen in the book, but in the TV series, yeah, I was in my feelings for a couple days. Because I felt all Beck wanted was someone to love her for who she was, and she didn't love herself. And Joe helped her love herself in the series. And just as she was getting that realization, Joe killed her, and that just hurt me so badly. Now let's go to the book. As far as the reading potential, yes, the book is a 9 out of 10. Now here's why it's a 9 out of 10. Because I felt that the book was overall incredible. There were just some lines of dialogue that were like, I'm not feeling this dialogue. She had a lot of swearing in. Me complaining about a lot of swearing. It's kind of like when I read J.K. Rowling's book that she did. I forget what it was called. Wow, that's how unmemorable it was. After Harry Potter, she wrote this book, and they had like a sheik, and she got backlash for misportraying sheiks. I don't know. Sorry about that. I forget what it was called, but it was just like J.K. Rowling's like, "Oh, I'm not writing for kids anymore. I can swear. Fuck, 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 fuck." There was a lot of swearing going on in You, and a lot of it I felt was unnecessary. But that doesn't make it a bad book. It's just some parts like that was like, ugh, what am I watching? So yes, You, highly recommended. Would I read the book again? I don't typically read books more than once. I mean, I could. I really could read another book again. Like I'm rereading the Dark Tower series. I read the Harry Potter books, almost every single one of them, 8 times. So I probably would sit down and read this again. Maybe after the whole series is out, I'll sit down and binge read it from beginning to end. That would be a fun time, I think. By the way, Caroline Kepnes does have on her Twitter page that book 3 is done. So I imagine right now it's in the editing process. And we should be seeing it hopefully sometime this year. I've not seen a release date, so if you have a confirmed release date, please let me know. I don't even know what the title is called. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited for this next book. I'm excited for season 3, but I gotta read Hidden Bodies first. Overall though, yes, a great book. You know, aside from some iffy dialogue and actual text, great, great, great time. Not as suspenseful as the series though. The suspense in the series was on point. I wasn't so suspenseful in the book, but that's probably because I've already watched the series, so I kind of knew what to expect. So that brings the suspense down. But man, it was hard to put the book down. I'll tell you what. But I think we are good to go. Oh, so I don't know if there's anything else to say. I will link Caroline Kepnes' Twitter down in the bottom. And go give her a check out. Check her out. If you're a fan of You, give credit where credit's due to the actors who did this. But I think this video's been going on long enough. we'll probably cut it down to just under 55 minutes. But this has been Joseph K. Thank you guys so much for watching. I want y'all to have a great day. I want y'all to keep safe. And I especially want y'all to keep it real. Later.